Well, do you remember when we thought Trump was going to be the anti-establishment president who was going to ensure that the deep state did not gather data on all of us? Well, unfortunately, this happened. This article came out from the New York Times. Trump taps Palantir to compile data on Americans. This is the article. In March, President Trump signed an executive order calling for the federal government to share data across agencies, raising questions over whether he might compile a master list of personal information on Americans that could give him untold surveillance power. What? Wait a minute. What? I thought Donald Trump was going to be the guy that stopped all of this. This is why people voted for him. They voted for him because they thought that he would put an end to the deep state. He would put an end to the central government, the idea of central government that was going to be gathering data on all of us, creating database, monitoring us, big brothering us, finding out which vaccines did you take, where are you going, what kind of ideas do you have, should we be shutting down your bank accounts? I thought we were going to be against all of that, and that is why Donald Trump was put into office. But it turns out, no. He's doing the exact opposite. He's actually doing, honestly, the big brother surveillance wet dream of the globalists. Says Mr. Trump has not publicly talked about the efforts since, but behind the scenes, officials have quietly put technological building blocks into place to enable his plan. In particular, they have turned to one company, Palantir, the data analysis and technology firm. And we're going to get to in a minute why Palantir is so sinister and why you should care about this. Goes on to say the Trump administration has expanded Palantir's work across the federal government in recent months. The company has received more than $113 million in federal government spending since Mr. Trump took office, according to public records, including additional funds from existing contracts as well as new contracts with the Department of Homeland Security and the Pentagon. This does not include a $795 million contract that the Department of Defense awarded the company last week, which has not been spent. Representatives of Palantir are also speaking to at least two other agencies, the Social Security Administration and the Internal Revenue Service, about buying its technology, according to 6 government officials and Palantir employees with knowledge of the discussions. Now, all of this was done under the guise of DOGE, right? So this whole idea was we're needing government efficiency. And so what would be more efficient than just creating one database on all Americans that has all the data on every single American? That seems really efficient, right? One database rather than 17 different databases or 20 different databases. Why don't we just have one big database that if I just can click on Kim Iverson's name, I know everything about her just in one spot rather than having to go hunting and pecking and finding all this information out. I'd rather just be able to, look and actually see right away what that Kim Iverson's up to. So Trump signed this executive order back in March, and people thought, okay, this is all part of DOGE. And really, this just kind of went under the radar. I mean, people really were not paying attention to this executive order and what it actually meant. But now we are, because it turns out that he's tapped Palantir for this particular job. So let's talk about Palantir. Why is Palantir so sinister? Well, Palantir was founded in 2003 by Peter Thiel. Also, Alex Karp is one of the founders as well. And there were some others with direct funding and involvement from the CIA. Now, do you trust the CIA? Is that the company that you would trust with all of your information? Should they be coming up with the company and helping fund it and design it? Is that a good idea? So the CIA helped found and fund this Palantir organization back in 2003. The company's original mission was to create a privatized version of total information awareness, a DARPA program that sought to track every aspect of a person's life to preempt crime or terrorism. And it always comes down to that. We're trying to keep you safe. There's a lot of terrorists. There's a lot of crime. We're trying to keep you safe. So what if we had a database that really collected all of the information on the potential terrorists so that we could avoid a terrorist attack, or all the crime so that we could avoid crime, right? It's for your own good. Don't worry. That's what they always say. And so this was a DARPA program wanting to track aspects of a person's life in order to prevent that crime and terrorism. Very Minority Report. Well, Congress shut that down because Congress actually did one good thing for once. And they said, you know what? This sounds like a violation of civil liberties. And they actually shut it down. So Palantir picked up where TIA, which is what it was called, like the Total Information Awareness. They couldn't have picked a more I guess, off the radar name. They're like, let's just call it what it is. Total information awareness. That's what we need to call it. And Congress shut it down. And so it shifted and it became a private entity, Palantir. And they thought, you know what, we could do the same thing as a private company as we could do as a public one or as a government one, because all we have to do is lobby Congress. All we have to do is lobby lawmakers, and we'll still get all the contracts. We'll still get in with the government. We'll have everything that we need. And sure enough, they have. So Palantir picked up where TIA left off. And because they're a private company, of course, they have fewer oversight rules. Quote from Palantir's CEO, Alex Karp, he actually said, "Our job is finding the things that are hidden. The job now includes scraping and analyzing information about you from government databases, law enforcement databases, and even private sources." That is what they're planning on doing. Palantir quickly became the go-to company for data integration and analysis for U.S. intelligence and military agencies. So yeah, they're collecting for military and intel, and now Trump has tapped them for a bigger, larger role. They've been used by NSA, CIA, FBI, DHS, ICE, and local police departments. Powers predictive policing tools in cities like Los Angeles and New Orleans. So they have a lot of AI tech, and the AI tech is helping look for things and people and suspects and terror and all these things. They support ICE when targeting and deportation systems. They've helped the U.S. Army track insurgents from Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, again, maybe some of these things you're like, well, that's good, right? I mean, we want to get rid of all the people that shouldn't be here, so we've got to do the deportation stuff. You might be thinking, yeah, it's great, track some bad guys in Iraq or Afghanistan or whatever, but what happens when the bad guy is you? The same software that has been used to track all of these so-called enemies is now going to be used on you because the Trump administration has tapped, I say DARPA, Freudian slip, Palantir, same thing, has tapped Palantir to gather data and information on all Americans from all the sources that the government has. Why in the world would the government? So we give all of our information to the government, and we think that the government keeps the information safe. And a lot of us are really hesitant to give our information to private companies. Yet here's the government with all of our data. I mean, this is the thing they were so mad at Cambridge Analytica. Do you remember that scandal with Facebook? You sold all of your Facebook users' data to Cambridge Analytica, a private company, so that they could use it for research and basically for statistics and research. How dare you give all of that information to Cambridge Analytica? They carted Mark Wahlberg. They carted Mark Zuckerberg in and grilled him over that. And yet the government is literally doing that exact same thing right now. The government is literally handing over all of our data to a private company. And where's the congressional hearing on that? Carting them in and saying, so you actually gather all of this information, sensitive information on Americans, and you sold it essentially to a private company? What were you thinking? Where's going to be the congressional hearing there? In the Trump executive order allows mass data sharing across federal agencies. The firm chosen to integrate this data is now Palantir. Palantir's platform, Foundry, is now being used or pitched for use at the IRS, the HHS, which is health and vaccine data. Yeah, so IRS, this is your taxes and your income. Now they're going to also be looking for your vaccine records and your health records. They're also looking at DHS and ICE for real-time tracking of migrants, Social Security Administration, and the Department of Education. So this allows the government to fuse all of your private data, financial, medical, legal, social, into one searchable system. Nothing like this has ever existed in the U.S. before. And now it's happening under the Trump administration. This is literally the nightmare people wanted to avoid, and why they voted for Donald Trump was to avoid this. And now it's being ushered in on the red carpet and served on a gold platter. Palantir's software was designed for national defense, but now it's being used for law enforcement, public health, and domestic monitoring. So examples of this would be COVID-19. Palantir's Tiberius system decided who got vaccines and when based on government-collected health data. HHS Protect is a massive COVID database managed by Palantir, collected and stored patient-level health data with very little transparency. Palantir also built a platform that integrated DMV data, arrest records, social media, and more to locate and deport undocumented immigrants. And you think, oh, well, that's fine. It's being used on the undocumented. We don't want them here anyway. Okay, but in order for them to find the undocumented, guess what they have to do? They have to search through the documented. They have to search through all of us. And as they search through all of us, they're looking at all of our data in order to find out who shouldn't be here. So we're all being surveilled as they hunt for the guy who shouldn't be here. Also, Theo-linked companies like Clearview AI were used to identify Trump supporters who protested at the Capitol. So this is a company that doesn't have any loyalty. They're not like, oh yeah, we're loyal to Donald Trump, and so we're going to do whatever the Trump administration and libertarians and freedom-minded people, we're doing what freedom-minded people like by collecting all their data and surveilling on them. No, this is a company that doesn't care if it's Joe Biden in office, doesn't care if it's Donald Trump in office, or if it's AOC the next time in office, which should scare the living daylights out of you, because somebody will come into office with this system already set up and say, you know what, we could use this system to root out all of those far-right lunatics from our country. We need to tag all of them as terrorists. Everybody who voted for Donald Trump, everybody who participated in J6, we got to make sure that we tag them as terrorists. And so we're going to use this database that luckily Donald Trump built and that he funded. And he made sure that was robust and in good hands, the government. We're going to go ahead and we're going to use that system. We're going to hunt down all of these people. You always have to be leery about who's building these things, because once it's built, everybody's going to use it. Because Palantir is a private company, here's another issue. It is not subject to the same rules and transparency as government agencies. So you cannot FOIA Palantir. Yeah, no Freedom of Information Act for Palantir. It's a private company. You will not be able to find anything about them. You don't vote for its executives, and it can deny responsibility for how its software is used. It doesn't have any accountability to the American people whatsoever. Their official line, by the way, is, we act as a processor, not a controller. The government decides how the data is used. Oh, sure. So that the translation to that is, we build the tools. What they do with them isn't our problem. Oh boy. But yeah, that's not the way it should work, right? When you build platform tools that enable profiling and surveillance and real-time tracking, and then you sell it to governments, you're complicit. And who else could they sell this to? So this is a private company selling this data to the American government, but they could also sell it to other governments around the world. They have no loyalties. Imagine which other governments they're selling this to. Palantir just isn't about collecting data, it's about deciding who's dangerous based on that data. This is where it gets very Minority Report, and this is what we're all afraid of, is who gets to decide who's guilty of what? Who gets to decide what the definition of terrorism is and who is a terrorist? So it's going to be doing this thing called predictive policing. This is Minority Report. Flags neighborhoods and people as high risk based on data, not current actions. Behavioral modeling from devices like Fitbits and phones. This has been proposed under Trump's HARPA plan. Can flag someone as a future threat. Also, Palantir integrates AI models that make decisions faster than humans, leaving little room for nuance, context, or due process. So a machine is going to decide whether or not you're a terrorist based on information that somebody had to program in. And then the machine just looks at the data and spits it out and says, yep, you're a terrorist. These systems definitely make a lot of mistakes. Have you ever used ChatGPT or any other program like that? Because it makes a lot of mistakes. Palantir CEO Alex Karp has stated multiple times that he fears that the far right will come after him. He literally told the New York Times, if the far right came to power, I'd be the first one they hang. So this guy is definitely not some sort of a Trump loyalist or even somebody on the right. This guy is somebody who thinks the far right's coming after him. He also bragged at Davos about using Palantir's tools to stop the rise of populism in Europe. So this is a guy that's been squashing the far-right nationalist movements that they've claimed are popping up in Europe, when really it's just a bunch of Europeans upset with all the immigration coming into the continent. And who is this being funded by? Well, this is being funded by Peter Thiel, of course, who claims to be a libertarian, but this couldn't be anything further from libertarianism, last I checked. So Palantir's entire model is about making the state hyper-aware, predictive, and self-updating. So using AI to essentially predict whether or not you're a terrorist or will become a terrorist. And it doesn't just respond to threats, it anticipates them. That's the biggest problem. And if that sounds efficient, great. You think, this is Doge. This is what we want. We want it all under one umbrella. Well, you'll think that until it flags you. And that's the way this always goes. So once the infrastructure is built, it's not going to go away. And whoever is in power is going to be able to use that. And right now it might be Trump, but tomorrow it could be AOC. And I keep saying that because I really believe that to be true. I do think AOC is a future president of the United States. And that should scare the living daylights out of you. Anything and everything that Donald Trump builds and that he sanctions under his watch, just think, okay, it's fine. You might be comfortable and you might think it's fine under Trump's watch, but is it okay under AOC's watch? And that should always be the litmus test on whether or not you support something. Are you okay if the most extreme of the other side gets control over it? What would they do with that power? And are you comfortable with that? That's the big question. So a lot of people are very concerned about Trump tapping Palantir for this. This is a sinister CIA DARPA company that is gathering data and helping squash dissent all around the world. And now Trump is handing them the keys to our data, telling them to go ahead, compile the data on all the Americans in one easy to access location so that we can just easily look up one person's name and find out everything we need to know. We don't have to go hunting and pecking. Go ahead, do that. That'd be a great idea. That should frighten you. And a lot of people are very upset about this. There's a lot of Trump supporters online that are saying, this is it for them. They've been longtime Trump loyalists, and this is where they've had it. This is where they draw the line. And this should be a line drawn in the sand for many, many, many Americans. And this is, a lot of Americans are even saying, a lot of those who were very much against the mandates and Operation Warp Speed, and Trump is still bragging about Operation Warp Speed, and they're saying, wait a minute, here's a guy that, this is supposed to be the freedom-loving president, and yet he's bragging about Operation Warp Speed, and now he's handing the keys to all of our data to Palantir, to a CIA DARPA organization that works for numerous different governments and is squashing dissent around the world. That is not freedom. That is not what American people voted for. This is extremely alarming. And all I could say is, eyes wide open, guys. Eyes wide open. I'll, of course, keep you updated on what is going on with this. If this moves forward, maybe we'll try to get, who's a great expert on this? I haven't talked to her about this yet, but we'll try to get her on the show is Whitney Webb. She's been excellent on reporting on Palantir. We'll try to get her on this week or next. She's very busy, but we'll try to get her on and have her really explain more in detail why Palantir is so sinister. But this is actually one of the worst things I've seen the Trump administration do in his term. We're very early on yet. We're only 6 months in. And if he's already doing this, this is astoundingly alarming. Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iversen Show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. We do live stream it every day. It's a 1-hour show. You can catch it. It is totally free. Just go to KimIversonShow.com. See you there.